You. Yes, you. Come in. Come in a little closer. Who are you allowing to influence your decisions right now? Is it your friends? Is it your family? Is it your coworkers? Is it your boss? Is it your pastor? Church leaders? Something very important that we must ask ourselves. Because in Matthew chapter 14, Herod listened to the wrong voice and it cost him the voice of truth. By the end of this message, we're going to see how influence can either help you build your destiny, or if you're not careful, how it can destroy it. Today, we're coming from the book of Matthew, chapter 14, verses 8 through 10. And this is what it reads. Prompted by her mother, she said, "Give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist." The king was distressed, but because of his oaths and his dinner guests, he ordered that her request be granted and had John beheaded in the prison. Now, this is something that we're quite familiar with. The beheading of John the Baptist, the voice of reason or the voice of treason. Herod, he was in the pickle. He was between a rock and a hard place. Literally, between the rock and the hard place. That's good. Because he knew that once he made a decision, he could not go back on it. See, when a king speak, and in this case, some may call it negative, but when the king speaks, he can't go back on it because it has become law. Now let's turn that around. And when the king speaks on your behalf, he has created a law for you. That's good. So what's the big idea to this message? The big idea to this message is quite simple. It goes a little like this. When we allow ungodly influence to govern our decisions, we compromise divine truth and silence the prophetic voice meant to lead us to righteousness. If we're being influenced by someone who's ungodly, godly will not be able to get through because you're too consumed with the ungodly influence. Now, notice what I said here. I said ungodly influence govern our decisions. You're either going to be governed by the things of this world or you're going to be governed by the king. There's a lot of political terms, especially that Jesus especially used political terms because he came to bring a government. And he wants to govern our thoughts. He wants to govern our actions. He wants to govern our decisions. We can't compromise. The main thing is the main thing. The truth is the truth. And the moment we give in to the ungodly influences, it will silence the prophetic. The prophetic that will tell you what's to come, tell you what to expect, tell you where to go. See, John the Baptist was leading Herod. He didn't know it at the time, but to righteousness. But he was manipulated and persuaded to do something against the voice of reason. And he created treason. So let's discuss the key terms in the background. Key terms in the background, it goes like this. The very first thing we're going to discuss is prompt. Prompt. Prompt is to instigate, urge, or manipulate another into action. Oaths, to sacred pledge, binding before men and women and gods. Breaking one brought shame in the Greco Roman honor culture. Beheaded, literally, decapitation. Now, this is what it symbolizes: the removal of divine authority and voice. Historical context. In order to understand what's going on in this scenario, we must understand how we would even brought to this place. Why is this scenario even here? Why is Herod listening to this young girl? Why is the mother involved? Why, why, why? So to bring you into the picture, just I want you to immerse yourself into this scenario. Put yourself in the court, listening to King Herod, listening to the daughter, listening to the mother, putting yourself there and visualizing everything that is taking place. You see, Herod and Antipas was the tetrarch of Galilee, ruling under the shadows of Rome. He was appointed by the Romans. Now, his marriage to Herodias, don't miss this because we're going to tie this thing together in order to truly understand the big picture. His brother, Philip's wife, was unlawful according to Levitical law. You see, Herod, he married Herodias, which is his brother's wife. And according to Leviticus chapter 18, verse 16, it was unlawful. And John the Baptist, he said so, right? But they both took issue with it. But the wife, she held a grudge because she wanted to marry the king. And John said it wasn't right. So she was looking for the perfect opportunity to get John the Baptist. And this situation had arose. Now, John the Baptist, he confronted the sin publicly, right? Now, it representing the uncompromising voice of God's kingdom. Do not be afraid to release the word of God that God has given you. You may end up like John. You may end up not being able to advance in your career. You may end up being persecuted. You may end up being ostracized. You may end up being cast out. But we must uncompromise. We must not compromise who we are, which is the king's kid, in order to succumb to the things and the people of the world. You see, she was humiliated and bitter. Now, Herodias, she waited for the perfect opportunity to destroy John the Baptist. And he used her daughter's dance and Herod's pride to achieve it. We're really going to tie it all together. Because that wasn't the only Herod. By the time we get to the end of this message, you're going to see how this is tied together with John the Baptist and Jesus Christ himself. Number one, power of influence. Now, Herodias, she understood what power was. It's a shame that she understood what power was. And we, as followers of Christ, don't realize the power that we have because of Christ. So she understood the power of persuasion and used it for manipulation. She understood the power of persuasion and used it for manipulation. She used her daughter to put the king in a trance in order for her words to influence the daughter to manipulate the king. That's why we must be careful who we lend our ears to. Because the more we lend our ears to ungodly influences, that ungodly influence will become us. Now, she couldn't confront Herod directly. She couldn't go directly to the king saying she wanted him dead. So she worked through her daughter, which was an innocent vessel, which turned into a manipulative instrument. Now, this correlates how sin often works indirectly, entering through familiar voices that have our ear. Doesn't this sound familiar to you? Doesn't this take us back to Genesis when Satan, ungodly influences of Satan whispered in the ear of Eve, and that ungodly influence determined her destiny because she had the destiny, but her destiny was destroyed because of who she allowed in her ear. So she began as an innocent vessel, but because she allowed an ungodly influence to infiltrate her ear, she became liable also. Let's reflect on that for a moment. If we are manipulated by someone, the person manipulating is in error, and the person who carries out the manipulative actions is liable also. So who's the culprit? You for listening, and the person that has whispered in your ear, forgiving you and leading you astray. So we must be discerning of who influences your spirit. Not every voice close to you carries the sound of heaven. It may be hard to prune people away, but it's necessary. Everybody can't go with you to the next level. I want to say that again. Everybody can't go with you to the next level. Did I say that loud enough? Everybody can't go with you to the next level. There's people in your inner circle right now who are influencing you in such a negative way. And if you don't do something about it, you're going to be just like them, and you're going to be culpable also. You have been warned. Number 2, the pressure of public opinion. Whew. Whew. Now, Herod knew the request was wrong. He knew that the request was wrong. What request? The request to behead John the Baptist. Now, his pride and the presence of his guest outweighed his conscience. Watch this now. He was distressed, and he made a decision based off of outside opinions and what people may think about him. So he was distressed, but he was not repentant. In fear of embarrassment, he traded the truth for reputation. This is why I said the destiny was destroyed, because he allowed the wrong voice to determine what he should do. There's only 2 ways about this: godly influences or ungodly influence. I'll be the first to tell you, I do not allow many people to influence me. You have to be very careful, because the more you listen to the ungodly influences, the more they rub off on you, and the more you begin to influence people in an ungodly way. So let's reflect on that. See, pride disguises itself as principle. Watching that. Pride disguises itself as principle when it prioritizes human approval over divine truth. Listen to the voice of God. Almost every time I do a Bible study, almost every time that I preach on a Sunday, I always emphasize the point that they need to hear from God before they hear from me. Listen to the voice of God before you listen to someone around you. God wants a relationship with you. If someone is telling you the only way that you can hear from God is through them, the only way that you can hear from God if you come to them, run, run, run. Don't seek human approval. Seek approval of the King. Now that takes courage. And that's why the kingdom requires courage to stand alone. Who don't I know that? You're going to feel like you're alone. People are going to look at you like you're crazy because people will not be able to figure you out. Just keep seeking the King. Keep listening to the King. Only do what the King tells you to do. Number 3, the death of the prophet. The beheading of John, it marks the culmination of the opposition truth, right? However, as history proves, silencing God's messenger never silences his message. See, Herod thought he ended John's ministry, but he only amplified heaven's witness. Watch this now. When the enemy silences one voice, God raises a multitude. What dies in obedience is resurrected in power. What dies in obedience is resurrected in power. Seek kingdom influence and not worldly influence. Because when you leave, that kingly influence that you displayed will continue to live on and on and on and on. Now, this is how it's going to all tie together. Don't miss this. You remember I said King Herod. Does King Herod sounds familiar to you? See, Herod the Great tried to kill Jesus as an infant. See, Herod Antipas killed John the Baptist. Both tried to extinguish the light, yet both failed. Now, famous theologian J. Knox Chamberlain said this: Herod the father tried to murder the infant Jesus. His son Herod Antipas imprisoned and eventually killed John. The same demonic system that opposed the kingdom ended up advancing it. The dad tried to kill Jesus. The son beheaded John. They thought they were silencing, but when you put the light in the dark area, it continues to expand and expand and expand and expand. They tried to extinguish the lights, but they only amplified it. See, when the enemy intends for evil, don't miss this now. What the enemy intends for evil becomes seed for kingdom multiplication. Kingdom multiplication. So let's end it with this. The head, which is influence, is power. Influence is power. So we must discern its source. Heart. Don't let pride, fear, or social pressure silence your faith. Hands. Stand firm for truth, even when it costs you comfort or approval. Call to action. Guard your ear gates. The voices you entertain shape the destiny you walk. So we must, it's imperative that we align our hearing with that of heaven. Yes, there's going to be moments where you feel like you're alone, but you're really not. Yes, there's going to be some difficult conversations that's going to be had when you stop listening to outside and ungodly influences. Yes, it's going to be difficult. Sometimes you're going to have to leave. Sometimes you're going to have to push people away. But all the time, you must keep Christ at the center. Follow Christ, who will never lead you astray. Follow Christ because he is the way. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, I love you always. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for the support. And until next time, peace.